And next up on C-SPAN, we take you live over to the U.S. House as they take up a couple of pieces of legislation dealing with emergency responders. They're just getting underway. Live coverage here on C-SPAN.
Destined in our journey of life to find eternal happiness in your presence, each day we hope to draw closer to you and at the same time accomplish great deeds for the good of this nation and for the world community. By your guidance and of our judgments and decisions, may we respond to your commands and holy inspirations to build your kingdom of peace and justice. In so doing, may we give you glory now and forever. Amen.
The Chair has examined the journal of the last day's proceeding and announces to the House his approval thereof. Pursuant to Clause 1 of Rule 1, the journal stands approved. The pledge today will be led by the gentlelady from North Carolina, Ms. Fox.
Please join me in a pledge to our wonderful flag. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Please be seated.
The Chair will entertain a one-minute request. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise? Without objection.
Mr. Speaker, the lone survivor, the last doughboy of World War I, Frank Buckles, has died at the age of 110. Frank Buckles in this photograph was taken when he was 16 years of age. He lied to numerous recruiters so he could join the United States Army and go over there in World War I. He served in the Ambulance Corps rescuing other doughboys that had been wounded in Europe. He came back home to America. During World War II, he was in the Merchant Marines, merchant seaman, and he was captured by the Japanese in the Philippines, and he was held as a prisoner of war for 3.5 years. And later, Frank came to West Virginia, and he drove his tractor till he was well into his hundreds. That's a photograph taken of him when he was 109 years of age. It's taken not far from here on the D.C. Mall. Because you see, it was Frank's wish toward the end of his life that we, as members of Congress, authorized the building of a memorial to all of the doughboys that served in World War I, all 4 million of them who have all died. 116,000 of them were killed in World War I. You see, we have memorials for Vietnam, World War II, and Korea on the mall, but we don't have a memorial for all of those that served in World War I. We have a memorial, and this is a photograph of it, for the folks that died or lived here in D.C. and served in World War I, but we don't have a memorial for all of those. So I have filed today legislation on behalf of Frank Buckles and all those other doughboys that we authorize the building of a memorial on the mall for those that served in World War I, those doughboys. And it's time that Congress do something for those young men and women that served, and that's just the way it is. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentleman from Arkansas rise? The gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today to remember an Arkansas legend, a former mayor, Ray Baker, who died March 4, 2011, following a lengthy illness. For 20 years, Mayor Baker presided over Fort Smith, Arkansas, our second largest city. He was remembered this week not only for his outstanding civic leadership, but for his 44 years of teaching American history at Fort Smith Southside High School, lessons taught to thousands of students on many of the very issues debated in this hallowed chamber. He was an institution in civic and academic accomplishment, including the prestigious Milken Family National Educator Award. Mr. Speaker, it warmed the soul to have listened to his colleagues, former students, family, and friends eulogize him for his contributions to humankind. His enthusiasm was contagious, his devotion to his school, church, and community unmistakable. thanks to Mayor Baker, in his own immortal words, life's worth living in Fort Smith, Arkansas. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentlelady from Texas rise? Gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, just a few minutes ago, I had the privilege of listening to Janice K. Bobholtz, a deputy sheriff from Wisconsin, Courtney Johnson, a teacher from Ohio, Ryan Fagg, an electrician from Indiana, Lynn Ratcliffe, a school support staff from Ohio, and Tom Geyer, a U.S. Army veteran and a parole officer from Ohio. All of them pleading with this Congress to intervene or to see the nonsense of their governors who are union busting and breaking the backs of middle-class Americans. They all explained how the unions were eager to work with these states on health and pension benefits, but yet, because of special interests and large corporate donors and private conversations of the governor of Wisconsin talking about breaking the backs of the Special 14 who are trying to stay out to help the working middle class, they are in trouble. Rather than creating jobs as we're trying to do as the Democratic caucus, working on behalf of the American people, what we have is, frankly, a horrible undermining of rights in this country. I yield back.
For what purpose does the gentlewoman from North Carolina rise?
Permission to address the House for 1 minute, Mr. Speaker.
Gentlewoman is recognized for 1 minute.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. With gas prices going through the roof, it's time to ask the question, is this administration's energy policy working? After all, gas prices have soared by 30% over the past year. We can help protect ourselves from these sky-high prices and create jobs by actively producing American-made energy. That's why I support an all-of-the-above energy policy that includes more American-produced energy like oil and nuclear, along with alternatives like wind and solar. This will lower prices and create good American jobs while reducing our dependency on foreign oil. Unfortunately, the Obama administration doesn't seem to get this. Its de facto drilling moratorium in the Gulf has already cost 12,000 jobs and 300,000 barrels a day of energy production. Mr. Speaker, we need to increase production, not decrease it, or American families are going to be stuck with ridiculous gas prices that line the pockets of unsavory regimes in the Middle East. I yield back.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Pennsylvania rise?
Permission to address the House for 1 minute.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, yesterday we learned that the federal deficit for the month of February was $223 billion, more than the total yearly deficit in 2007. Yet Republicans have been labeled as irresponsible for looking to cut a mere $61 billion from the rest of this year's budget. Our cuts only amount to 30% of the monthly deficit. Additionally, these cuts are only made in the discretionary portion of our budget. Tomorrow in the Energy and Commerce Health Subcommittee, we're going to look at new Obamacare programs that have been locked away in the mandatory budget. One of these programs allows the HHS Secretary to spend unlimited sums of money. We have given the Secretary a credit card with no limit, even though our national debt threatens the economic health of our nation. It's time that we cut up the credit card, restore to Congress the power to set fiscal priorities. Slush funds and unlimited spending are just two more reasons why Obamacare needs to be repealed. I yield back.
Gentleman yields back. For what purpose does the gentleman from South Carolina rise?
Permission to address the House for 1 minute. Extend my remarks.
Gentleman is recognized for 1 minute.
Mr. Speaker, the Washington Post is correct today by headlining, quote, Obama allows indefinite detention, citing, quote, Guantanamo Bay order marks shift, as the, quote, U.S. also plans to resume trials by military commissions, end of quote. I would like to commend the President for stating the administration will resume trials by military commissions for detainees that pose a threat to national security. Civilian courts were never the proper venue to try these enemy combatants. In the future, I hope the President will work with Congress in creating a comprehensive plan for the detention and prosecution of the detainees at Guantanamo Bay as we face the global war on terrorism. As a member of the House Armed Services Committee, I know firsthand of the professionalism of our dedicated military personnel at Guantanamo. I recently visited the facilities in January, led by Chairman Buck McKeon, and in July 2005 with former Chairman Duncan Hunter. Guantanamo Bay is a world-class detention facility to protect American families. In conclusion, God bless our troops, and we will never forget September 11th and the global war on terrorism.
Gentleman's time has expired. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
Ask permission to rise and address the House for 1 minute, revise and extend my remarks.
Recognized for 1 minute.
And I thank the Speaker. Mr. Speaker, we're coming up in 2 short weeks' time on the 1-year anniversary of the passage of the Patient Protection and Affordable Care Act, affectionately known as Obamacare. Mr. Speaker, what has that year wrought? You know, many of us will remember the Speaker of the House a year ago, Speaker Pelosi, saying, we have to pass this bill so we can understand what's in it. Well, it's been a year. Do we understand what's in it? The answer is we do, and people don't like what they see. What about the oft-repeated claim, if you like what you have, you can keep it? Turns out that is incorrect. What about the waivers that have been issued since October? Now well over 1,000 waivers have been issued by HHS. Why have those waivers been issued? They've been issued because this policy doesn't work. And worse than not working, it costs a ton of money. Now, Mr. Pitts just mentioned that February, the deficit in this country was $223 billion for 1 month, the shortest month of the year. This is as good as it's going to get. What happens when you have those subsidies in the exchanges that subsidize middle-class purchase of health insurance in this country for the first time? That's a high-pressure tap into the Federal Treasury. It's really wrong, and it has to stop. I'll yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman's time has expired. Chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable, the Speaker, House of Representatives, sir, this is to notify you formally pursuant to Rule 8 of the Rules of the House of Representatives that I have been served with a civil subpoena issued before the evidentiary panel for the State Bar of Texas for documents. After consultation with the Office of General Counsel, I have determined that the compliance with the subpoena is inconsistent with the precedents and privileges of the House. Signed sincerely, Robin Reeder, Archivist.
Chair lays before the House a communication.
The Honorable, the Speaker, House of Representatives, sir, I have accepted the nomination of my caucus to serve on the Committee on Energy and Commerce in the 112th Congress. I hereby submit my resignation to the Committee on Natural Resources and Homeland Security. Signed sincerely, Donna M. Christensen, Member of Congress.
Without objection, the resignation is accepted. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, the Chair will postpone further proceedings today on motions to suspend the rules on which a recorded vote or the yeas and nays are ordered, or on which the vote incurs objection under Clause 60 of Rule 20. Reported votes on postponed questions will be taken until after 6:30 today. Does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I move the House suspend the rules and pass H.R. 570, the Dental Emergency Responder Act.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 12, H.R. 570, a bill to amend the Public Health Service Act to enhance the roles of dentists and allied dental personnel in the nation's disaster response framework and for other purposes.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Burgess, and the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Pallone, will each control 20 minutes. The Chair recognizes the gentleman from Texas.
And Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks, include extraneous material on H.R. 570 currently under consideration.
Without objection, so ordered.
And Mr. Speaker, I yield myself such time as I may consume. Mr. Speaker, currently federal statute
the gentleman will suspend so the Chair can receive a message.
Mr. Speaker, a message from the President of the United States.
Mr. Speaker, I'm directed by the President of the United States to deliver to the House of Representatives a message in writing.
The gentleman from Texas may proceed.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Again, I yield myself such time as I may consume. Currently, federal statute deters through omission the incorporation of dental professionals and dental schools into emergency response plans. H.R. 570 would remedy this omission by incorporating dentistry by name into the federal disaster response framework. This legislation is endorsed by the American Dental Association, the Academy of General Dentistry, and it passed the House last year on a voice vote. It recently passed the Committee on Energy and Commerce, the Health Subcommittee, and the full committee on a voice vote, and 19 members of the Energy and Commerce Committee are currently co-sponsors. In the aftermath of a natural disaster, terrorist attack, or public health emergency, traditional medical delivery systems can become overwhelmed. In these situations, it is vital that states work with all qualified and licensed providers to ensure a volunteer workforce to assist in the mitigation of that tragedy. Dentists receive sound general medical background during their professional education and are equipped to take patient medical histories, administer injections, and triage patients. This legislation calls for no new federal money and poses no new restrictions on monies now being spent. It simply allows states, at their option, to incorporate dentists and dental facilities into their planning. I believe this bill will allow us to strategically utilize all available resources and have the ability to deploy the maximum amount of aid in times of disaster, and I urge support of this bill. I want to thank Mr. Towns for introducing the legislation with me, and I will reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong support of H.R. 570, the Dental Emergency Responder Act of 2011. This is a bill that we passed on the House floor last fall with strong bipartisan support. The bill amends the Public Health Service Act to include dentists in the National Health Security Strategy, which is the strategy HHS develops to respond to a public health emergency. The bill also expands health and medical response training programs to include dental facilities. The bill will also amend the Homeland Security Act to include dental personnel in the definition of emergency response providers, and will amend the Post-Katrina Emergency Management Reform Act of 2006 to require federal response plans to include dental resources. This bill will help shore up the nation's preparedness for disasters, including natural disasters like hurricanes and man-made disasters like a terrorist attack. And I want to thank Representative Burgess and Representative Towns for their outstanding work on this issue, and also acknowledge the advocacy of our former colleague, Representative Stupak, who worked so hard on this bill in the last Congress. I urge my colleagues to support the bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.
The gentleman reserves. Gentleman from Texas recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I want to take just a moment and to thank Candace Miller from Michigan, who was involved with this legislation throughout its course last year and has been very instrumental this year. With that, I'll reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves the balance of his time. Gentleman from New Jersey.
You have no additional speakers. Okay, I would then also yield back the balance of my time at this time and ask for support of the bill.
Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. Gentleman from Texas.
Again, Mr. Speaker, I also want to thank Chairman Upton and Chairman Pitts, the ranking members Waxman and Pallone for their work in passing this bill so quickly through the subcommittee and the full committee. I also want to thank Mr. Stupak for his hard work on the legislation in the last Congress. Again, I want to acknowledge the work of Candace Miller last Congress and this Congress in getting this bill passed. In an emergency, all hands on deck. Dentists are willing to support the medical and public health response to a disaster, and this legislation allows states the option to incorporate dentists into their disaster response framework. Our nation's medical surge capacity will never be optimal until we capitalize on the personnel resources of the entire healthcare workforce. I urge full support of this important legislation, H.R. 570, to ensure our national disaster responses has the maximum amount of available resources. I also want to thank two of my staff members, Rebecca West and J.P. Pauskevitz, for their hard work in getting this bill to the floor in what appears to be record time. Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'll yield back the balance.
Mr. Speaker,
For what purpose does the gentleman from New Jersey seek recognition?
Could I ask unanimous consent to give Ms. Sheila Jackson-Lee from Texas 3 minutes? She was wanted to speak on the bill. I know I yielded my time, but I didn't realize that she was on her way back.
Is there objection?
No objection.
Okay.
Objection so ordered.
Thank you. Can I yield to her at this time?
Yes.
I yield now 3 minutes to the gentlewoman from Texas.
Gentlelady from Texas is recognized for 3 minutes.
I come from the Gulf region. I thank the distinguished gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Pallone, for yielding, and I thank Dr. Burgess for his courtesies, but also Mr. Towns for this legislation. I rise to support H.R. 570 because coming from the Gulf Coast and having gone through Hurricane Katrina, Rita, and Ike just in a few short years, seeing the devastation of communities and knowing that a holistic approach to health care is vital. We have a vibrant dental community in Houston, Texas. In particular, I want to note that senior Dr. Zeb Poindexter has served on the American Dental Board and is an enthusiastic supporter of accessing dental care services to the poor. Well, Mr. Speaker, when there's a hurricane or natural disaster of some form, everybody falls into the same boat. And seeing a medical professional come to assist them or even to provide specific dental care after the devastation, again, of an earthquake, a tornado. Obviously, we have been very fortunate with earthquakes, but hurricanes, the tragedy of the incident that occurred this past weekend in Louisiana, individuals who are facing needs, having the dental community be a part of this disaster response team is an excellent idea, and I join my colleagues in recognizing the importance of access to dental care for those individuals facing disaster, but also to increase the opportunities for poor Americans who likewise need access to dental care. Dental care can impact one's health, and we have seen that in the past. We've seen that with children. So I believe this legislation is in the right direction, and I add my support to it. I know that the Gulf region will participate or participate in and appreciate the fact that dental personnel and professionals are added to our disaster relief and our first responders. With that, I thank you, and I yield back.
Gentlewoman yields back. Gentleman from Texas.
Again, I urge support for the legislation and passage of the bill. I'll yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman yields back. Gentleman from New Jersey, yield back.
Yes, and I urge support of the bill. Thank you, Mr. Speaker.
The question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass H.R. 570? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the Chair, two-thirds being in the affirmative.
Mr. Speaker.
What purpose does the gentleman from Texas rise?
I request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. All those in favor of taking this vote by the yeas and nays will rise and remain standing until counted. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed. Makes it easy. For what purpose does the gentleman from Texas seek recognition?
Mr. Speaker, I move the House suspend the rules and pass H.R. 525, the Veterinary Public Health Amendment of 2011.
The clerk will report the title of the bill.
Union Calendar Number 10, H.R. 525, a bill to amend the Public Health Service Act to enhance and increase the number of veterinarians trained in veterinary public health.
Pursuant to the rule, the gentleman from Texas, Mr. Burgess, and the gentleman from New Jersey, Mr. Pallone, each will control 20 minutes. The Chair now recognizes the gentleman from Texas.
And Mr. Speaker, again, I ask unanimous consent that all members have 5 legislative days to revise and extend their remarks and include extraneous material on H.R. 525 currently under consideration.
Without objection, so ordered.
And I yield myself such time as I may consume. Mr. Speaker, H.R. 525, the Veterinary Public Health Amendment Act of 2011, would take important steps to increase the number of public health veterinarians. Food animal veterinarians have a vital role in our nation's public health, and experts have informed us that there is, in fact, a shortage. This shortage could negatively affect our nation's public health, including the safety of our nation's food. We expect that this legislation will help greatly in solving that problem. H.R. 525 would enable individuals seeking veterinary public health degrees to be eligible for existing public health workforce loan repayment programs. This legislation also would allow the Secretary of Health and Human Services to award existing training grants to increase the veterinary public health workforce. I would like to thank all the members who have worked on this issue, including my physician colleague on the committee, Dr. Phil Gingrey from Georgia. I would also like to thank Congresswoman Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin for authoring the bill. I urge my colleagues to support the bill, and I will reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman from Texas reserves. Chair recognizes the gentleman from New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I yield myself such time as I may consume.
Gentleman's recognized.
Mr. Speaker, I rise today in strong support of H.R. 525, the Veterinary Public Health Amendments of 2011. This is an important bipartisan bill that we passed on the floor in the last Congress. Veterinary medicine is an important component of our human public health system. From H1N1 to SARS to food safety, public health veterinarians are critical to our protection of human health. This bill would ensure that veterinary public health professionals are eligible for two important public health workforce programs, but only to the extent that the work of these veterinarians has an impact on human health. I want to commend Representative Baldwin for her leadership on this legislation. She's been working on this for a long time, and I was pleased to work with her, and also to thank Chairman Pitts, Chairman Upton, and Representative Shimkus for their support. I urge my colleagues to support this important bill, and I reserve the balance of my time.
Gentleman reserves the balance of his time. Gentleman from Texas.
I'll reserve the balance of my time. I have further speakers on my side.
Gentleman reserves. Gentleman from New Jersey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I would yield now 3 minutes to the sponsor of the legislation, the gentlewoman from Wisconsin, Ms. Baldwin.
Gentlewoman from Wisconsin is recognized for 3 minutes.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I rise in strong support of H.R. 525, the Veterinary Public Health Amendments Act. Although we may not know it, our health depends in part on a small army of veterinarians working in public health. Their role was never clearer than during the H1N1 virus outbreak. We now see that diseases can travel from animals to humans seemingly overnight. Public health veterinarians are our front line of defense against another outbreak. They inspect our slaughterhouses, prevent foot and mouth disease from outbreaking and devastating our economy and our agricultural industry, and they protect our citizens against the threat of bioterrorism. Unfortunately, our current workforce cannot meet these public health challenges. In the next 20 years, experts predict a shortage of 15,000 veterinarians. And between 2006 and 2016, the Bureau of Labor Statistics predicts that the demand for veterinary services will increase by 35%. Something must be done to protect our national health by preventing and controlling infectious diseases, ensuring the safety and security of the nation's food supply, promoting healthy environments, and providing health care for animals. H.R. 525 will help ensure that we have a more robust veterinary public health workforce. The bill has two main components: loan repayment for veterinarians who commit to teaching or working in public health, and a new fellowship program for public health veterinarians. I want to thank the Association of American Veterinary Medical Colleges and the American Veterinary Medical Association for their tireless work on behalf of public health veterinarians. I also would like to thank Chairman Pitts and Ranking Member Pallone for their support on this important legislation. This bill is identical to the Veterinary Public Health Amendments Act that passed the House by a voice vote in the last Congress. This bill also passed the Energy and Commerce Committee unanimously. I urge my colleagues to support this critical bill to ensure that our veterinary workforce is prepared to meet our public health needs, and I yield back the balance of my time.
The gentleman from Wisconsin yields back the balance of her time. Gentleman from New Jersey.
I have no additional speakers, Mr. Speaker. I would certainly urge support for this important legislation and yield back the balance of my time.
Gentleman from New Jersey yields back the balance of his time. Gentleman from Texas.
Mr. Speaker, I ask unanimous consent to insert into the record a letter from the American Farm Bureau Federation urging support of this legislation. Would also like to point out that this legislation enjoyed unanimous support from both the Republican and Democratic sides of the dais and the full Committee of Energy and Commerce. I urge support of the legislation. I'll yield back the balance of my time.
Without objection, so ordered. Gentleman yields back the balance of his time. Question is, will the House suspend the rules and pass H.R. 525? Those in favor say aye. Those opposed, no. In the opinion of the Chair, two-thirds being in the affirmative.
Mr. Speaker.
Gentleman from Texas.
Mr. Speaker, I respectfully request the yeas and nays.
The yeas and nays are requested. All those in favor of taking this vote by the yeas and nays will rise and remain standing until counted. A sufficient number having risen, the yeas and nays are ordered. Pursuant to Clause 8 of Rule 20, further proceedings on this question will be postponed. Chair lays before the House a communication.
To the Congress of the United States, Section 202D of the National Emergency Act, 50 U.S.C. 1622D, provides for the automatic termination of a national emergency unless, prior to the anniversary date of its declaration, the President publishes in the Federal Register and transmits to the Congress a notice stating that the emergency is to continue in effect beyond the anniversary date. In accordance with this provision, I have sent the enclosed notice to the Federal Register for publication stating that the national emergency with respect to Iran that was declared on March 15, 1995, is to continue in effect beyond March 15, 2011. The crisis between the United States and Iran resulting from the actions and policies of the government of Iran has not been resolved. The actions and policies of the government of Iran are contrary to the interest of the United States in the region and continue to pose an unusual and extraordinary threat to the national security, foreign policy, and economy of the United States. For these reasons, I have determined that it is necessary to continue the national emergency declared with respect to Iran and maintain and enforce comprehensive sanctions against Iran to respond to this threat. Signed sincerely, Barack Obama, the White House, March 8, 2011.
Referred to the Committee on Foreign Affairs and ordered printed. Pursuant to Clause 12A of Rule 1, the Chair declares the House in recess until 6:30 p.m. today.